What's up, fuckers? It's tea time. The Trumpublicans have taken turning a blind eye to a whole new level. They clearly don't have 2020 vision or 2021 vision for that matter. Tyranny, treason, terrorism, and to them, he's still the greatest president in the history of the United States. Now, I'm just spitballing here, but I'm pretty sure they think that because they don't know their history. Their antennas don't pick up all the channels, just Fox News apparently. Although, after Tangerine Palpatine's premeditated domestic terrorist attack, it looks like the Republican Party is divided on that sentiment. I guess dividing the entire country wasn't enough for old Pumpkin Tits. Now, he's divided the grand old party, sabotaging his own party on his way out the door. But that's just a regular Wednesday for Captain Chaos. But this isn't the first time a political party has been torn apart like a brown child from its mother's arms under the Trump administration. Let's talk about the Whig Party. Y'all should remember them. An elephant never forgets, right? It really is ironic an animal as smart as an elephant is their party's symbol. I mean, a Cheeto may be more appropriate. Anyway, the Whig Party was an American political party formed in the 1830s, bringing together a loose coalition of groups united in their opposition to what they thought was the executive tyranny of President Andrew Jackson. Nothing creates a strong friendship like hating the same person. They felt he was becoming king-like or authoritarian-like. Now, that word should ring a bell for those of you that worship creamsicle Satan. Whigs were supported by an economically diverse group of voters, winning presidential elections and state legislative majorities because of this mass support. Money really does make the world go round. After winning both the White House and Congress in 1840, the Whigs were set to become the nation's dominant party, but it was the issue of slavery that would be the ultimate downfall of the Whigs. Nothing like sitting around a table and casually discussing how black lives don't matter, huh? I guess not much has really changed since the 1800s. By the mid-1850s, these big tough white men were getting all pissy over the divisive issue of getting to own black people as the country expanded into new territory. Southern Whigs saw themselves as more pro-slavery. Tits on Christ. Racists in the South. Northern anti-slavery Whigs opposed slavery's westward expansion. The straw that broke the camel's back, though, was the signing of the Kansas-Nebraska Act of 1854. That overturned the Missouri Compromise and allowed each territory to decide for itself whether it would be a slave state or free. The anti-slavery Whigs freaked the fuck out and spun off and founded the Republican Party in 1854. The last year the Whigs had a presidential candidate was in 1856. Bye! The collapse of the Whig Party in the 1850s created national chaos and ultimately civil war. But that's what happens when you aren't on the same page. But just to make sure that we are on the same page, I would like to remind everyone that the Civil War is the war the Confederacy lost. Again, I don't think the Trumpublicans know their history as they continue to wave that Confederate flag with pride. You know, the Confederate flag that they waved in the nation's capital for the first time ever in this country's history during their terrorist attack, incited by their president. You see, the president was able to incite violence because of his right to freedom of speech. While Trumpublicans don't seem to know their history, they do, however, know their rights. They just don't understand how they work. The right to free speech literally means you can say whatever you want. You can say things like the 2020 election was stolen, or even walk up to your boss and tell them to go fuck themselves. However, freedom of speech does not mean freedom from consequence, and that's not breaking news, because freedom from consequence is not a right in this country. Senator Josh Hawley figured that out firsthand this week when he lost his book deal with Simon & Schuster for saying he was objecting the certification of Joe Biden's fair and legal win even after the nation's capital was desecrated by the Blue Lives Matter crowd. That Blue Lives Matter crowd really showed us all how much Blue Lives Matter on January 6th, as one of them murdered a blue life with a fire extinguisher, while others injured at least 14 other police officers, bringing the death count from 4 to 5. But who cares about a police officer having his head bashed in by Republicans? Because more importantly, Josh Hawley lost a book deal. The Washington, D.C. police chief says that at least 6 weapons have been recovered from the attack. It really is a shame there were no children in the Capitol that day. I mean, if there were, the children could have guided those terrified congressmen through the whole process with ease. Children have become experts on how to handle people invading places like schools or federal buildings with weapons. When I was a kid, we did fire and tornado drills. Now, America's youth spends their time doing things like active shooter drills. Because the Second Amendment is more important than children to the pro-life crowd. And whether those recovered weapons were guns or not, it brings us back to how these domestic terrorists are the ones against gun reform. After January 6th, it certainly proves these are the people that probably shouldn't have them. No one wants to take your Second Amendment right away. We just want to make sure people that receive a gun license haven't ever done things like, I don't know, participate in terrorism? Again, terrorism that was brought on by the President of the United States. It's not normal for a president to sabotage his own country, but it's always good to have a backup plan just in case. A backup plan like the 25th Amendment. The 25th Amendment to the United States Constitution says that if the president becomes unable to do his job, the vice president becomes the president or acting president. And after Donald Trump's demand for violence and unfortunate divorce from his devoted wife, Mike Pence, I'm okay with Pence being president for a few days. You can text 25th, that's 25TH, to 50409 to have ResistBot send letters to your senators and representatives to ask them to urge the cabinet to enact the 25th Amendment because it's way past due to 2545. It's important to know your history so it doesn't repeat itself, and important to know your rights. But it's even more important to know how your rights work, so you don't think your rights are being violated when you get put in timeout on Twitter or lose a book deal. America doesn't negotiate with terrorists, you maggots. I think that's a phrase you've loved shouting over the years, and you're right. The FBI will be in touch. I want everybody to have a great fucking day unless you aren't aware freedom from consequence isn't a fucking thing.